right, guys, we're talking quarterbacks today, but before we get into any deep discussions, Drew, I believe you have a question for us. Is that right?
Yes, I do. I was watching some videos like a week or so ago, and it was about a quarterback who had just won a Super Bowl, MVP of 2 seasons ago.
Who is that?
And Patrick Mahomes, if anyone doesn't know, he was talking about how he started playing quarterback, I think as a sophomore or junior in high school. Like that was his first time ever playing quarterback. And it wasn't until either this last year or the year before he finally understood coverages. Oh. So as a quarterback, that's like the whole game. You read the field, you read the DBs, you read this and that. So like for him to just understand coverages this year, or like year prior, like my question y'all is how good do you think Patrick Mahomes is going to be? He's obviously already won a Super Bowl and an MVP. So, like, do you think he's like Tom Brady status? Like, do you think he's just like he's going to be like a Dan Marino kind of, but obviously won a Super Bowl? Like, how good do you think his career is going to end, knowing what you know about him right now?
Pookie, go.
I'm thinking that, Patrick Mahomes has just scratched the surface on his potential. Because if you look at what he's done coming out of Texas Tech air raid offense and translating to the NFL, a lot of quarterbacks aren't able to make that move. So for him to move into a pro-style offense and just to light it up, I mean, he's physically remarkable, but it's also his mental acuity and his ability to pick up the game so quickly that's been so impressive to me. And, Patrick Mahomes, I think that he's going to be like the next Tom Brady. He's going to be this generation's like quarterback that everyone knows. He's going to be a household name. Because when you talk to like people who don't even like football or aren't really into it, they know who Tom Brady and Peyton Manning are. Well, they're going to know who Pat Mahomes is.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree. I went to the Packers Kansas City game. Yeah, I mean, he honestly right now is the face of the NFL. Like that, he is the when I think of NFL, like they put Patrick Mahomes' face right now at the beginning. He's only, I think he's 24 years old, maybe about to be 25. Like he's young. I unfortunately didn't get to see him play live, but watching Aaron Rodgers, like I see a lot of similarities in their games. I think he is going to be the next Aaron Rodgers, but like better. If that makes sense.
Got one better for you. So, and this is not the same. I'm not comparing these two here, although I think they were in the same draft class. So I saw something, this was a few months ago, where Dak Prescott didn't know cover 2 until he got to Mississippi State. And so I was like, how do you make it to that level without not understanding at least like cover 3, cover 2? So that much doesn't necessarily surprise me. He reminds me a lot of Favre, except he is probably not as prone to making the same decision. So Favre ran, single wing, dead T. I don't remember what offense they ran, but his dad was like conservative, pound the gap middle. So Favre didn't know how to read coverages either.
Yeah, and he was well into his NFL career before he learned how to read coverages.
Huge arm to make the throws. So to me, though, Mahomes is playing at such a high level already. I can't see. I almost don't want to say that that the fact that he didn't know how to read coverages previously is going to make just such a huge difference once he learns. I think maybe he's downplaying it a little bit. I think he knows a little more than what he's letting on in those comments. But to say who is he going to be? Well, we got to see what happens when he signs that big-ass contract for $40 million, and the Chiefs pretty much have to blow up the team. So what success are we talking about? You have a once-in-a-lifetime quarterback, but who's he throwing to? What defense is helping him out in certain situations? So I don't want to go and predict his success, but if we're talking about the talent level, you guys know I'm as big on Aaron Rodgers as there's ever been. I'm a huge Favre guy as well, but for me to resign myself to the fact that there's possibly another guy who could join that group in a pantheon of all-time quarterbacks takes a lot of courage from me and a lot of swallowing of pride, and he's there. He is. My dad talks about him all the time. Mahomes this, Mahomes that. I'm like, Dad, shut up. All right? This is a damn Pat's household. But Pat Mahomes joins that category of players. I didn't bet against Brady Belichick, which now that just goes to Belichick. I don't bet against Belichick, and I don't bet against Aaron Rodgers. And I told my dad, and I think I told you, Drew, that if Mahomes won the Super Bowl, he would join that category. He did. He's in that category now. So, I mean, that would be freaking scary. You know, if he could just diagnose every coverage. If the fact that he's only playing at 25% of what he could be doing, then that would be scary as hell. I don't think that's the case, but if that's what you're getting at, then I almost said the F word. I can't necessarily do that here, but that would be whack. So
he may throw 60 touchdowns one year. That's all I'm saying.
The way the league's going, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the pairing of him and Reid, just like you said, Brady Belichick. I think Andy Reid's the perfect coach for Patty Mahomes, and it's not like Andy Reid's gonna retire anytime soon. Like he's not super old. Like, he's only gonna retire until he wants to stop coaching. So I think you can see Reid and a Mahomes pairing for the rest of their career, and I don't think it matters who's around Mahomes. I think he has the talent to be like a Brady, where he makes weapons who aren't as good 5 times better. You know what I'm saying?
Explain Aaron Rodgers, though, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to Rodgers, and I think with this whole draft pick, apparently a report came out that they wanted Brandon Ayahu, the receiver out of Arizona State, and when the 49ers traded up, right, to draft him, that's why they went and drafted Love. Yeah, it was the 49ers. Yeah. When the 49ers went up and traded for him to get Brandon Ayahu, that's why they went the Love route. So I think with Rodgers, he was a really great quarterback. I just think the system around him, as he started to get older, when Mike McCarthy, who is not a great coach anymore, and then with Matt LaFleur, like the receiving talent he had, they didn't throw the ball as much as they were when he first came into the league. And so, and with Rodgers too, like he's thrown one touchdown to a first round draft pick one time, and it was Mercedes Lewis, who wasn't even drafted by the Packers. Other than that, it's all been second round and lower guys. So he's evaluated like talent that, like Jordy Nelson probably came into the league, was probably not going to be a well-known guy, and had a really great career, not a Hall of Fame career, but he had a really great career. So I mean, it's the same effect in my opinion. So
okay, so my question is,
he's going to be great.
My question is, how far did the Packers reach for Jordan Love? Because, you know, if they were trying to get Ayuk at that spot and he was gone, should you really have taken a quarterback there? I would have traded down if I was them. That was just a head scratcher to me.
Again, this is one you could talk about for an entire episode. I thought there were so many directions the Packers could have gone. I think maybe the best way to look – well, there are so many different lenses to look at this through. One lens I like to look at it through is paralleling them and the Saints. So what the Saints do, you have Drew Brees for probably one more year. I go get a center to help out my offensive line. And the Packers not only don't get Rodgers a skill player, they go and get a backup. So it's like, how do you handle two quarterbacks that are at the twilight of their career, although Rodgers could probably go 4 more years. He said he could. Breeze is probably done after this year, 2 at max. But to me, also, if you want Rodgers to be around for 4 more years, why would you draft a quarterback that you want your quarterback to be able to go in 1 to 2 years if he's a rookie? Like, if you're drafting him because I get my quarterback on a low salary, but if Rodgers plays 4 years, yeah, if Rodgers plays 4 more years, then Love's coming in and he's almost already up for contract, and I have no idea what I have. So I don't. To me, I remember I think a guy who's been covering the Packers forever said that Matt LaFleur was partially using this pick to get back at Rodgers for his prima donna passive aggressive attitude. The move on so many levels doesn't make sense unless you trade Rodgers, which I don't think happens because that contract is so heavy, or you release him, and that's not likely until I think after the 3rd year, where they would only owe him $17 million, I think. Yeah. So on that, I have no idea how to look at that pick. It really depends on the future, and yeah, I have no idea.
Does Aaron Rodgers play in a Green Bay uniform in 2021?
Yeah.
Yes. If for any other reason, that contract. I mean, unless someone would he want to? Maybe not. Probably not. But I don't know what other options there would be.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I saw an image of where they compared Favre, his ages, his Super Bowl wins, and his Pro Bowls, basically down to the number of what he had done, and then where they drafted Rodgers in 2004 to 2006, sorry, to where they had where they had Rodgers at his age, his Pro Bowls to Super Bowls to his where they drafted Love this year, and they are identical. So like, if you're the Packers organization, what you're thinking is, I'm getting a quarterback for the next, however many years, 10 plus years, and that's the lineage that's something that you want. You want to have that franchise quarterback, but you also have A-Rod, who's only 36 years old, who has, 4 years, at least 4 good years. And it's not like he's bad. The system they went to was a run-heavy system this year.
I mean, but one more thing I would say is, if you knew that if this was about the time you were looking at getting a quarterback, didn't they give Rodgers that extension last offseason? Yeah. That big extension? Why would you give it to him if you're looking at maybe drafting? There are so many levels to this move that don't make sense. If you're talking in a very narrow lens, as in here's what happened from Favre to Rodgers, now we can go from Love to Rodgers to Love. That's one thing, but you can't ignore the salaries, the cap space, the money that's owed. It just, that part of me, I don't understand one bit. So I have no idea. Again, I have no idea what to think about that one.
So speaking of drafted quarterbacks, we're going to go into our hot takes for the day. Who was the biggest reach and who was the biggest steal amongst quarterbacks in this class?
We just talked about my biggest reach for sure. That's it.
I think we can agree Jordan Love is the biggest reach. So yeah. Who was the steal of the draft?
Drew?
I'm going to say Tua at 5, because I think you're getting a guy who's a winner. We saw it in his first. He came in halfway through the national championship game a couple years ago and won. He won a lot at Alabama. He obviously never. I don't think he won another. He didn't win another championship there, but I think he's a winner. He played for a winner in Alabama, and I think before this year happened, it was tank for Tua, and the Dolphins did it. They just got him at 5, which is a way better value than 1. So I think he's the biggest steal, even though he's at 5.
And I'm gonna have to say that Jake Fromm this year, I mean, he's a very accomplished quarterback, very competent, comes from a winning system in Georgia, and for him to go in the 6th round to the Bills, I mean, he has potential starting capability in this league. So for him to go to somewhere to be a backup, while it could be beneficial to him to sit and learn, Josh Allen is only a little bit older than him, so it's not like he's going to be so much of a mentor to him. So it's like I'm just kind of scratching my head at why he wasn't picked earlier by some other teams. Steelers.
Well, y'all knew I was huge on Fromm. He was featured on that Go 90 series, Beyond the Lights, and I was hoping the Pats would pick him up. In hindsight, now that I have a better idea of what they want to do, I'm fine with them not doing so. As far as him going to Buffalo, my questions would be, all right, and it's not a huge deal. Listen, plenty of players do it. Rodgers is a California boy going to Green Bay. Brady's California playing in New England. Jake Fromm, good-looking Southern Georgia boy, backwoods hick. He's not a hick, but he's going up to Buffalo to play in that cold-ass weather. Crazy-ass fans. That's one thing I would like to see. But as far as a guy, a leader, someone who I would want on my team, Jake Fromm is right there at the top of who I would want to represent my franchise. My only question is, what does it mean for Josh Allen? And part of me believes that even though he had a really solid season this past year, there's still questions about his accuracy. And although he's a durable guy who's mobile and presents many challenges to a defense, my feeling is maybe if they don't see improvement in the accuracy in this next year, going into next year as well, then they're like, maybe we get rid of Josh Allen and we move on to Jake Fromm. So I like the fact of anybody getting Jake Fromm. I was sold on him from day one. So as far as calling him a steal, getting him in the 6th round, yeah, I think that's a good shot from you, Pookie.
I think it was a terrible landing spot for him. I think he could have came in and competed, and I think as of right now, Buffalo is going to go with Josh Allen, but I think he's definitely someone's going to give him some competition just based off of his career at Georgia. You know, he came in, he was behind actually Jacob Eason. Eason got hurt. Fromm took the job, never looked back. So I think something similar could happen, but I think I wish he would have wound up somewhere like in New England, somewhere where he had a better chance of competing for the starting job day one.
Yeah. So that's what I thought was interesting. But hell, I mean, I pride myself on doing research. There's a quarterback from Oregon State who Gil Brandt and a couple other scouts were saying, this is the diamond in the rough that no one is really talking about. And he ended up going to the Jets. So when Jake Fromm was taken by the Bills, I moved on. Not only did I move on to this guy, I was already sold on the fact that Gil Brandt was saying take him. But then I looked up pictures of this guy, and he's hot, and I want a hot quarterback. And this guy fits the bill. He's got some guns on him. He's got a gun, and he's got guns.
Yikes.
Then the Jets picked him up. So that's one. I need to learn his name, but that's one I'd be keeping an eye on. But so we had quarterbacks taken as well. Drew, I think I'm very excited to see what Jacob Eason will do. I like that pick a lot. Big on quarterback. And it'll be interesting to see, you know, Phillip Rivers, you know, just because he has this historic career, borderline Hall of Fame, doesn't necessarily mean he lasts the whole season. Maybe he takes a shot, goes down, or he sucks it up, and maybe Eason gets thrown in right away. I would love to see Eason play just to see what he's got. Sooner than later, just to feel my curiosity. Is it the best thing for him? No. I always think the best thing to do is to sit back for a year and take your time and learn, especially like Rodgers did. But I really can't wait to see what Frank Reich can do with someone like that. No idea, just the physical, the tangible aspects of his game. I'm really curious to see. That being said, the draft is one thing, quarterbacks were taken, but now we need to move on to free agency, guys, because we've had some big-time signings, in my opinion. So the two that come off the top – well, there's three. There's two signings and one lack of a signing. We'll talk about all three. Let's start off with – let's go with Andy Dalton. Let's start with Andy Dalton, guys, because we have friends who are Cowboys fans. Drew, you live in Cowboy territory. So me being the journalist that I am, I contacted two of my good friends, all three of us good friends, who are our Cowboys correspondents. And I got messages from both of them. So one of them, Blake Kenton, he likes the pick. And let me see if I can find verbatim some of the things he says.
Why Sandy's looking for it, I'll kind of say my take on Dalton. He's from TCU, so he already had a house down here, so he's just moving. I saw a little Twitter post that said, you know, the only thing that's changing for Andy Dalton is whether he's going to change his hair color to blue to match the team color that he was rocking before with the Bengals. I mean, personally, I think for the Cowboys it's great because with Dak, you know, contract up in the air, you don't know if they're going to sign him or not, whether you want to sign him for that much. You have a capable quarterback who has won in Cincinnati. You bring him in for, you know, I think like $1 million or like a 1-year contract for, you know, a league minimum. So I think it's a great sign for the Cowboys organization. Why they did it, no idea.
And, you know, I'm just thinking that, you know, Andy Dalton is a talented quarterback. He's shown that he can be a competent starter in this league. I'm not saying to move forward with him as a franchise quarterback, but he should have been given a shot as a bridge quarterback at least somewhere. I know that a lot of the positions were filled, you know, with Teddy Bridgewater, Tom Brady, guys like that got put in, but for other teams that were still looking for a franchise quarterback. But Andy Dalton, man, he for a while there, he went 7-0 and he was an MVP candidate before he got hurt. And I think people forget about that. So I'm just wondering if he's lost it or if injuries have taken their toll or what's changed with Andy Dalton that, you know, that fall from grace that he once had.
Let's not forget, and I had to remind our other Cowboys correspondent Gage of this, that Pookie, one of our all-time favorite plays is what kept Andy Dalton out of the divisional round of the playoffs. Can you remind me of what player would have kept Andy Dalton from moving on to the next round against your Steelers?
His name rhymes with Bonte's perfect.
They were that close. They were right there. So here's Gage's opinion. He says only Jerry Jones could have his best draft in years 1 week and then turn around and shit down his leg the next by signing an ass quarterback just to send a message to Dak that he's replaceable. So I need to react to that real quick. I do not believe Andy Dalton is an ass quarterback. I believe
he's one cheek.
He's buns. Forget the fact that that guy played for one of the worst assembled teams in recent memory. And Madden is never the best way to assess a team or how good they are. But I tried rebuilding the Bengals on franchise mode. I couldn't get shit done because that offensive line couldn't block for shit. All right? And if they can't block on Madden, then they're probably not going to block really well in real life. Not to mention the fact A.J. Green's hit or miss. He misses more games than he plays. He's playing with a terrible team. And when he had a decent roster, he did okay. Never mind. It's not like he's starting for the Cowboys. He's a damn backup.
Yeah.
So I wanted to respond to the fact that he's an ass quarterback. I disagree with that, especially for the fact that he's now a backup. One could argue he might be the best backup in the league. That's not my opinion, but you could certainly argue that. So Blake, on the other hand, loves it. Huge fan. He echoes the sentiment of we have the best backup quarterback in the league. And if we've seen recently, Nick Foles and Teddy Bridgewater are great examples of how valuable it is to have that backup quarterback. Drew Brees goes down for 5 weeks. Bridgewater goes 5-0. Carson Wentz goes down. Big Dick Nick wins a Super Bowl. You've got to have your backup quarterback. So, and the Cowboys are in a win-now mode. You can dig deeper and say, whoa, what's Jerry doing here? Is he trying to put pressure on Dak? Maybe. He might be. But if anything, the Cowboys are in a win-now mode. And to me, that backup quarterback can help you. Dak he's been pretty good so far. He's got that shoulder problem going on, and I don't think he had surgery on it. He might have, he may not. May have to go back and edit that part when I do my research. But either way, those shoulder injuries, we haven't perfected the shoulder entirely. So who knows? Maybe it's a reoccurring problem, and you have a backup who can go in there and throw to Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, hand off to Zeke. So I think, in my opinion, there are more positives than negatives, but people are going to hate on Jerry Jones no matter what. So
True.
What do we think about Tom Brady's fit in Tampa Bay?
Drew,
with the weapons they've added, it's a great fit. I mean, you bring Gronk out of retirement. You add there you have Evans and you have Godwin on the roster already.
Howard. So they can run a 2 tight end set.
Howard wants out. Howard has already stated that he wants out of Tampa. So I mean, even then you have Cameron Brate, who's a capable tight end, a number 2 tight end. That only adds to not only adds to the passing game with Brady, but it adds to the running game. They drafted another running back. I think the running back out of Utah. I think it's Derek Moss, if I remember correctly. They did draft a running back though, which is was one of their biggest needs because Ronald Jones was their starting running back, and he's not a great option. But I think Tampa, probably won this offseason. They're probably going to be one of those teams that has the biggest turnaround, and they're probably going to be a playoff contender, maybe even a Super Bowl contender out of the NFC.
Zach Moss is a beast. I saw him play one time. It was when Utah played USC. That man, you talk about steals in the draft. I'm not a big fan of drafting running backs, especially in early rounds, but Zach Moss is a huge pickup. My only question would be, Arians' offenses like to throw the ball down the field. How much arm does Tom have left? But who the hell does not fit into that damn system when they have the weapons that you two just talked about? I mean, that's what the NFC South, like, dude,
it's getting competitive this year.
Yeah, it'll be – I mean, we're talking about quarterbacks. They just signed Teddy B in Carolina, and then someone else, Jameis Winston, And, I was just listening to Matt Hasselbeck talk on Pat McAfee's podcast earlier today. He was talking about how this year is almost like a bridge year. You have a bunch of older quarterbacks in Breeze, Rivers, Brady. You have a bunch of older guys who, a generation is about to end, and a lot of starting positions are opening up. So guys like Dalton, Jameis, even Cam Newton, who we'll talk about in a second, guys that they might take a year off in a sense where they're going to sit behind. Jameis is going to learn, Drew Brees' system. He's going to learn under Drew Brees for an entire year. That these guys are getting information that's more valuable than them playing in the NFL potentially, or playing on another team starting. And so, there's a chance that this year these guys might not play, but in a year from now, they're going to be in a starting role that's going to be a lot better for them than we might know.
Pookie, I'll go to you. The only thing I want to say about the Jameis move is it could not be a better move, in my opinion, for Winston. A great career move for him to swallow any pride he might have had and go sit in that meeting room with Sean Payton, Drew Brees. I think they credit Joe Lombardi with being a pretty good offensive mind too, so I'll throw his name in there. I love it for him. For the Saints, I love it as well. I got a guy who can kill you with 30 picks in a season, but he's going to have time to learn. He's going to get to refine his decision-making. He's got talent. He's got arm talent for sure. I think it's a great move for Jameis Winston. And for the Saints, you could argue that maybe they have the best backup quarterback in the league. So I'm a big fan of the move for both sides. Obviously, you would want Drew Brees to be healthy all 16 games going into the playoffs, but
he's getting up there in age, so it's more and more likely that he's going to have a guy that can replace him in games, or at least come in relief in order to keep him healthy. Because, if you have Drew Brees and you're blowing somebody out and you need to take him out in the fourth quarter, you want a quarterback that's going to go in there and at least be competent enough not to cost you the game in some sort of terrible fashion, whether it be through turnovers or poor decision making. And if Jameis Winston can learn from them in New Orleans, it will be very beneficial to him, because he can finally get the knowledge that he needs to be a successful quarterback in this league and get some development that really wasn't done for him in Tampa Bay.